Who really writes United States foreign policy? We're taught that the elected president calls the shots, but author Greg Felton argues that the real power rests with an unelected network of Washington think tanks, organizations that systematically aligned American military might with foreign interests. To see how this capture actually happened, we have to rewind to the early 1990s. The Cold War had just ended, the Soviet Union collapsed, and the United States was left without a major external enemy. At the time, President George H.W. Bush approached the Middle East as a pragmatist, rather than a rigid ideologue. Following the Gulf War, Bush actively clashed with neoconservatives. He wanted to force a comprehensive Middle East peace settlement. He went as far as co-sponsoring the 1991 Madrid conference, an aggressive diplomatic push to bring Israelis and Palestinians directly to the negotiating table. When Israel's hardline Prime Minister, Yitzhak Shamir, flatly refused to participate, Bush pushed back. He threatened to withhold $10 billion in loan guarantees, essentially a promise by the U.S. government to cover the debt if the borrower defaults, unless Shamir agreed to participate and adhere to United Nations resolutions. Bush's insistence on treating the Palestinians with fairness and demanding adherence to United Nations resolutions was seen as a direct threat to Zionist colonial ambitions. The pro-Israel lobby responded by coordinating to deny Bush a second term in office, creating a massive political vacuum in Washington. Author Greg Felton argues that many Washington organizations are actually propaganda mills, designed to disguise foreign lobbying as national security policy. These groups moved to fill the political vacuum left by the Bush administration. Take the Jewish Institute for National Security Affairs, or JINSA. Founded in 1973 to advocate for sending military supplies to Israel, it swelled into a massive liaison organization. They pioneered a program that sent retired American generals on information visits to Israel, effectively co-opting the American defense community through targeted junkets. JINSA utilized a seamless revolving door between their lobbying offices and high-ranking government positions. Heavyweights like Dick Cheney, Richard Pearl, and Douglas Feith moved effortlessly between the two, blurring the line between foreign advocate and American leader. Then there is WINEP, the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. WINEP was founded in 1985 as a direct offshoot of AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. In 1988, WINEP issued a manual titled Building for Peace. It was an operational blueprint designed to stall peace negotiations and ensure absolute Israeli military superiority in the region. They presented themselves as a balanced voice. By the time Bill Clinton took office, WINEP's theoretical blueprint had been adopted as standard American foreign policy. Finally, the American Enterprise Institute, or AEI, morphed from a simple pro-business group into a well-funded conservative government-in-waiting. Under neoconservative guidance, AEI became a hub for Straussian philosophy, a worldview named after Leo Strauss that explicitly teaches that political deception is a necessary and normal tool for leadership. When the George W. Bush administration took power, these think tanks needed to translate their white papers into active warfare. To do that, the neoconservative network had to completely bypass the cautious traditional military cultures operating inside the CIA and the Pentagon. Their solution was to create their own shadow intelligence agency right inside the Defense Department. They called it the Office of Special Plans. It was run by individuals deeply tied to these exact think tanks, including Undersecretary of Defense Douglas Feith. The operational compromises were staggering. According to military insiders, visiting Israeli generals were allowed to bypass Pentagon security desks entirely. They walked straight into the offices of top defense officials without even signing in. The Office of Special Plans functioned as a corrupted, unfiltered conduit to the White House. It systematically suppressed measured, verified intelligence and replaced it with outright falsehoods to justify invading Iraq. Career intelligence officers already knew Saddam Hussein didn't possess weapons of mass destruction, so the Office of Special Plans manufactured the threat using a man named Ahmad Chalabi. Chalabi led the Iraqi National Congress, an exile group funded by the United States, and he maintained deep ties to JINSA. The CIA and the State Department openly considered Chalabi to be a shameless fabricator. He had even failed a polygraph test. Yet the neoconservatives running the Pentagon insisted on elevating his claims. Chalabi provided a specific menu of lies. He falsely promised that American troops would be welcomed as liberators. He fed the Pentagon fake intelligence about mobile biological weapons labs, and he fabricated connections to the September 11th attacks. He also promised that a new Iraqi government would open a lucrative oil pipeline directly to Haifa. Why did Pentagon leadership trust a known fraud? Because Chalabi provided the exact intelligence they needed to hear. His fabricated reality perfectly aligned with their ultimate geopolitical objective, aggressively reshaping the Middle East to serve foreign interests. To sell this war to the American public, they rolled out a highly sophisticated public relations strategy. A 2003 report prepared by the Luntz research companies for a pro-Israel foundation outlined exactly how to manipulate the domestic mindset. The report explicitly advised politicians to aggressively link the liberation of Iraq with Israeli security. It instructed them to relentlessly repeat the words Saddam Hussein to trigger American fears and justify the invasion linguistically. While think tank scholars drafted calculated PR strategies in air-conditioned Washington offices, the United States military was sent into a brutal, chaotic reality on the ground. The linguistic manipulation worked flawlessly. The traditional, cautious diplomacy that George H.W. Bush had championed a decade earlier was entirely eradicated. By bypassing the security apparatus and manufacturing the threat, an unelected network of lobbyists successfully hijacked American foreign policy. They trapped the nation in a disastrous, open-ended conflict. It is a chilling reminder of how vulnerable democratic institutions actually are. When think tanks stop conducting objective research and start manufacturing wars, it is the public that ultimately pays the price in both blood and treasure. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, please hit the like button and subscribe to the Bookish Breakdown. Your support allows us to keep digging into these historical shifts. Let us know in the comments below, how much influence do you think Washington think tanks hold today? We'll see you in the next video.